The book of Proverbs, verse 4. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. Hi everybody, this is Phil from The Eternal Balance, Christian RPG and storytelling. So, I think for this kind of a video, I just want to go through and I'm just going to do some world building and maybe just talk about some systems I'm trying to flesh out and work on. And I kind of want some of this to be a little more casual and not worry about the quality to an extreme level. Just focus on just making a fun video and just kind of like just talking about some stuff for this little RPG world. I'm gonna try to keep it more in the RPG world when I talk about this stuff. Talk about like Christianity and that kind of stuff. We'll see how it goes, but we'll trust in God too. Okay, so I guess I should say, so sometimes I use ChatGPT. Sometimes I also just have like a notebook and I have a pen and I just like kind of write stuff in it. And I might also just write stuff in Discord myself. But the nice thing about ChatGPT, or there's also like 100 other versions just like it. Also, I do sometimes I have a little fire tablet, I think it's called. And sometimes I take some notes in there too. This little pen, like a magnetic pen that you can like touch the screen. It's kind of neat, right? Okay, so here so one thing is I'm trying to figure out and flesh out my combat system. So I just, I think I just came up with, I just asked a simple question. What is a basic combat system for my RPG to use? Now, this is probably like the very basics of like maybe 5e. Now, my world's not Dungeons and Dragons, but I mean, it has some inspiration from it at least. You kind of have to take it from it because it's like it's the mainline world. So I want to make it simple, right? And not make it like overly complicated. A lot of my world is like the theater of the mind. And I don't have because this isn't like a traditional world. This is more like voice chat, or even on the phone, which is actually really smooth, by the way. So it gave me some ideas, and it's not bad, right? So I was thinking I could do some of the basic system where you get an action, you get a move, and I could even do like a bonus action. So I want to make it pretty easy, right? And pretty simple to follow. And I want to make it pretty simple as in, it's like where you are or where you're going to go. And I know it's difficult to explain the environment and stuff too. So trying to kind of flesh this out more. I don't want to get overly boggled down by mechanics too much. I know it's because it's kind of addictive to be consumed with levels and mechanics and gold and all that kind of stuff and loot. But I do feel like it's about role playing at the end of the day too. Also, as a Christian, I seek to glorify God. So I know that there's so something I was and a lot of this is me just kind of playing around with it, right? So I kind of use some ideas. One is try to have the players kind of remember where they're at and where the enemies and stuff might be at. Another thing is I kind of want to use a system where if something would make sense, it kind of is there. If you're playing an archer or something, or a rogue, or you're kind of stealthy, it's if you're looking for a place to hide, and it's based on the environment, there's probably something where you can hide, if need be, right? There's probably some kind of rocks or a trees or some kind of, what do you call it? Those some kind of a barricade or something maybe, or some walls. There's probably something out there, right? So some things are just kind of a given. I think that the analogy I was using with one of my players was if your character needed some water or something, there's probably some water. But it's also it's you know, I mean, like, I try to be like a little bit generous, but like, I mean, it's like you're not necessarily gonna get everything, right? You need a little bit of water and some forest or something. Or your character like I give my characters like these divine holy powers from God. It's like you need some little bit some water, I'm sure, but like you want like a massive waterfall or something in some like, you know, random forest and like, you know, all these like layers and lists of things. That's like way more than like, you know, a given, right? So it's like trying to find a healthy balance, you know, kind of as the world's called, like, you know, the eternal balance. Trying to find a healthy balance of, you know, not giving the players too much excessively, because it's like the idea of like, you know, you give them too much, you make the world too easy, they just kind of quit because it's boring, and you make it exceedingly hard, and then people like rage quit, right? So they rage quit. That's not good for the game, because it's exceedingly hard and it's so complicated and challenging. But you make it too easy, they're just yawning, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is just, there's nothing. It's like waiting for your turn, and it's like 20 minutes. So I feel like I got to give consequences, and I got to make it simple so that you can play it over the phone, but make it complicated enough that the player still has to like think about it and invest in what they're doing. It's like giving them like this illusion of something sometimes. It's like the way I genuinely believe it is the players are supposed to win. Sometimes a hero can fall, and rare circumstances, maybe even someone could die if it's like they're making stupid decisions, or kind of like the roll of the dice. So, oh yeah, and also ChatGPT, because I have two separate worlds, I kind of talk about it. So I have my Luminous Rift, and I have the New Eden Restored. So it references like, you know, like blaster pistols and stuff too. And like a lot of this stuff makes sense. And also it's kind of hard for me sometimes to figure out what a good AC is, and like what a good attack rolls are, and like numbers and stats, or how many abilities they really should or shouldn't have. Trying to make it so that the enemies are like, trying to make something that's like, you know, at least somewhat balanced. But that's all. I feel like it's always a game master's challenge. So it's like, and like I feel like certain characters, you know, like are better at certain things than others. But I'm trying to figure this out. Like, yeah, like Tobias is one of my main characters from the Luminous Rift. And a lot of this stuff is probably difficult to keep track of. So I'm gonna have to try to figure this out. I don't know if I want combat to be like a massive thing where it's just like every single second. But depending on how long it is, maybe it can be like one main combat for like a big enemy or something. And I can kind of fudge some of their abilities and effects too. Because like at the end of the day, I mean, it is about storytelling. I mean, I want people to role play. I think mechanics make it interesting. But I can kind of just storytell too. So, yeah, oh shoot, what is this? So yeah, that's just some ideas, some combat. So, again, I don't want to make it obscenely easy, but again, I could just, sometimes it's just convenience. Like, I could say that a character, like, instead of always having like the exact number of like movement they could have, I could say that they could just like move from like a certain distance, like one point to another, if it makes like reasonable sense. If it's like, you know, like up from one end of the football field to the other, I mean, like they would have to be doing like, you know, like a heavy sprint, right? All their equipment put away, they just do a full scale run. Like maybe they can make a pretty good jump or a pretty good distance, right? But like normally it'd be like, you know, from like one point to another, like if they want to hide behind a tree. I could also just say you just get one movement. But maybe if it's not that far, you can move a little bit more. And I could just say that like you can use any of your actions, like maybe like a bonus action or an action or a regular movement, in any order that they want to. And make it really easy, right? Make it like really fun and convenient for the player. I want the players to roll lots of dice. So like when they're like making skill checks and certain things, I want the player to be rolling dice, because I feel like that makes them more interact with the world. And it gives them a sense of, you know, their choices, right? And like I do like the like there's a natural 20 and then there's like a natural 1. And like sometimes it's kind of funny, like natural 1s are kind of interesting. Like the player character, like, you know, he drops your weapon, or like, you know, like during one of my stories, my kind of like this archer, he got 3 1s in a row, and basically the enemy broke his bow in two, and like his bow got lit on fire and destroyed. So it's like, but it was kind of funny, and it was an interesting story. Now he got a new bow eventually. It all kind of worked out, right? But it makes it funny. It makes it interesting. I think it kind of keeps people engaged a little bit more. Because you roll a d20, like, you never know if you can get a 20 or a 1. A 20 could be like a really big success. Like, you know, maybe you kind of just like, you get some opportunity that you never would have gotten otherwise. And a 1, like, you know, maybe it's like you're kind of repulsive. Like, you go to this like embassy and you're some guy, and like you talk to some woman, you get a 1, and like, you know, she's like repugnant of you. Maybe like you didn't shower or something. You know, it's like you kind of smell bad. I don't know. Whatever the reason is, she just doesn't like you. And like it's really hard for you to get that information. But like I feel like it kind of like, it's like all roads will kind of lead you to a good road eventually. Like I don't want my world to be like locked off necessarily. So if you do fail a check, I feel like you can eventually still get to the same ending. It's just like, what if like, it's just like instead of talking to some lady in the embassy, you have to go and talk to a couple other people. You have to do them a favor or pay them some gold, or you have to somehow smooth your way through it, right? And it's probably not going to be as interesting of a story. What if like, you know, some hot chick, some hot elf woman, right, in some embassy, you convinced her, you know, to accept your point of view. You know, you and her get to like flirt and hang out or something, or you get special opportunities. Maybe, you know, it's like you get some nice thing. You get to meet a noble, you make some friends, you get to like hang out, and it could be a great experience and learn some great story. So if you fail, it could be kind of bad, or sometimes the real reward in an RPG is the story and the quest, right? Like that's the real reward. I mean, sure, you get the money, you get the loot, you get all that stuff, but like you get the storytelling, and also you get like the moral choices and stuff too. You know, like, also as a Christian, right? You know, like the true reward is, you know, God, and finding things in His kingdom, and like there's a higher values and higher things in life, and like just money, right? This stuff doesn't go very far. I feel like a story is like, that's really interesting, right? And being able to make your own choices in that story and be able to reap the rewards and impacts of your choices, I think that's meaningful. If you do like a good deed for somebody, or even if you preach the gospel, that could be like really meaningful. You could remember that for years, right? But and I try to put some kind of a Christian spin on this. I don't want my world to be like force feed the faith down people's throats, but I do want to I put it in the lore. I put it in it's kind of just in the world in general, and like a couple things are like I do want to like open the idea that like the players can like pray at the beginning of the session, and like even trying to be in character and stuff, because like you're trying to role play kind of like a Christian maybe, or like, you know, doing things that are of the faith. Like you kind of learn to role play it a little bit more. And like obviously I want people to have fun. So I think that's why it's called the eternal balance. Trying to balance all of this stuff. So I want to promote Christianity, but I also like, you know, it can be fun and it can be some neutral, and you know, it can be like a little bit secular sometimes. Like, you know, it's like maybe, you know, maybe you go through a combat fight and like you get some loot or something and you have some fun. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's like some clean, normal fun. Oh yeah, and like, you know, ChatGPT and stuff. I feel like it's a good tool. Just don't let it think for you, right? Like it can generate some ideas, and I can look at some of the ideas it gives me, and I'm like, something here is interesting, and that's valuable. But just don't let it think for you. You know, use it for inspiration, but don't use it for like, you know. Don't let like stuff like AI, or even being on the internet or listening to me or anyone, right? Like you don't have to be brain dead. You can think for yourself. So use AI that'll help you. It can clean it up for you. You can make it sound smart. it can do a lot of good. Just don't let it think 100% for you. I'm looking for some concepts, like, even concept art and stuff like that. That's great. Building some ideas for some quests, it can come up with some cool ideas. And it can take ideas that, like, you make, or can say that I make, right? And it can flesh them out a little bit more. That's really good. But just try to be smart, right? Turn your brain on. The way God created you is to have a brain. Sometimes you got to think for yourself. So yeah, I guess these are some ideas for the combat. And I mean, for right now, most of my characters in the world are pretty much low level. It's kind of like rolling like maybe like one, somewhere between a D4 to like a D12. I could add in multiple dice. Like my archer class, he has some like stealth abilities. He has this divine holy water power, so he can make some arrows into ice, and he can like fire some ice arrows. So he has a lot of stealth abilities, which are pretty cool. So he can add some extra D6s or D8s or something. And I think this stuff makes it interesting. And like, I can kind of use some of the basic systems. And I can kind of make my own, right? So like, like a dagger might be a D4, even right here, like, a sword, a D6, a big sword, maybe 2D6, or a big sword could be like it could be a D12, it could even be a D10. And like kind of making it interesting too. And they have special abilities and stuff. But I do want to say that like my world doesn't focus heavily on just combat. Like I want what's it called, the eternal balance, right? Let's be like I think like temperance and like God's virtues. I want some combat, because like sometimes the hero's got to fight the villains and stuff. You got to fight your way through. You got to prove your faith, your conviction, right? Do you truly have conviction, or do you not? It's like easy to say you do. Sometimes you got to fight against darkness and prove that you really believe what you believe in. And there's stuff like role playing, which I think is important. Like, a character, sometimes like you got to talk your way through situations, and like sometimes like you got to again, like you got to prove your worth. It's like a trial and a test. So it's like you gotta show your characters can figure out how to get through it. Like if it's not straightforward, how do you get through figure out the situation? So like there's role playing, there's combat, there's different like moral choices, there's like conflict between the party and stuff, and there's just flat up storytelling. Sometimes I, as the game master, can just tell a story versus certain pieces of the content. And there's lots of storytelling. There's like environmental storytelling. It's like you describe the world around them. Sometimes the players can just kind of freely do what they want. And there's conflict and there's drama, some intrigue. There's a lot of fun, characters can do. And also, I feel like just kind of building your character and leveling up and using your loot or your new rewards, all this stuff is fun. So, trying to find a balance of not having too much of any one thing all the time. And sometimes it's nice, as the game master, I can just kind of sit back, and the players can kind of just do what they want for a while, and I can just kind of watch and listen to it. And it's also kind of nice for my throat, right? I don't have to talk too much the whole time, right? So that's some fun. All right, I'm going to end this video here. All right, so here's just some... Also, let me know if you like this kind of stuff, whoever might watch it. The channel's kind of new right now. I'm trying to work on making some more content. But I think I want to have a casual attitude, right? But glorify God. All right, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. God is good.